And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Christina Upchurch, who writes, "Hey, John. Okay, I just finished watching the Loki finale and I loved it, even if it left me completely confused. LOL. Listen, Christina, you're not the only one, and we'll talk about that in a second. I can't wait for the spoiler discussion, but there are two other big pieces of news to talk about. First is that there's going to be a Loki season 2. Second, I saw on Twitter that it's been confirmed that Loki is going to be in Doctor Strange 2. I wanted to know what you thought of all this. Thank you." All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, Christina. And let's deal with the first things first, about there being a season 2. You guys probably woke up this morning and saw the headlines everywhere that there's going to be a Loki season 2. Leading up to the finale last night, a lot of people in our chats were asking, do we think there's going to be a season 2? And what I said was this. There's a reason why Marvel called WandaVision a limited series and did not call Loki that. There's a reason they called WandaVision a limited series, which is what WandaVision was just nominated for at the Emmys. It didn't get nominated for Best Drama. It was nominated for Best Limited Series, which means a one-shot, right? Basically a miniseries. But they did not qualify or classify either Falcon and the Winter Soldier or Loki as limited series, which tells us, that the plan is, if it does well, they're going to do a season 2. Well, they had already predetermined that they're going to do it because now the word is official. There is going to be a Loki season 2. And after watching the finale, and we won't go into heavy spoilers here, well, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense that they're going to be doing a Loki season 2. So there's that. Now, as far as the Doctor Strange thing, a lot of you guys are probably seeing this headline going around right now that Spider-Man is going to be in Doctor Strange. Now, Christina, you say it's now been confirmed. I should emphasize this. It's not confirmed. It's coming from a very reliable source, but just to be clear, semantics matter. It is not confirmed. This comes to us from the folks over at the Hollywood Reporter who write this, and talking about the Loki finale, they said, without getting into spoilers, we'll leave that for your Heat Vision colleagues. The Loki finale sets the stage for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Hiddleston's Loki character is also expected to also appear in the next Doctor Strange. Marvel, however, has yet to confirm whether or not that's happening. That comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter. Now, the Hollywood Reporter, once again, is not Gus's gas station movie reviews.fart. They're the Hollywood Reporter. They don't just say things for the sake of saying them. So if they're saying we expect that it's expected he's going to be in that, I think you can at least assume for now that that's what's going to happen. Maybe we find out later it's not, but I think it's safe to assume that that's what's going to happen. So after seeing the finale last night, which we won't go into a great detail about, but even before the finale, you could tell a lot of stuff that's going on here with multiverse and blah, 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 blah. Now, if you had asked me before last night's finale, if you had asked me, do I think Loki is going to be in Doctor Strange 2? I would have said no. I mean, not impossible, but I would have told you, and maybe I did say, I would not expect to see Loki there. I mean, the film's already finished shooting, if I'm not mistaken, and there were no reports of Tom Hiddleston being around. But after watching the finale, it does make perfect sense, and now we're hearing these reports that it's going to be there. So I'm excited about that. That sounds like it could be pretty cool, especially after watching the finale. There's one thing I'm concerned about with the MCU right now, though. And this directly ties into Loki, Doctor Strange, and the Multiverse of Madness. And there is this big growing concern. Not, I'm giving up on the MCU. No, just a concern. Just a concern. But we'll talk about that concern in just a second. Because, Rob, first, I want to hear your thoughts on the fact that it's confirmed there is going to be a Loki season 2. And what do you think about this report in the Hollywood Reporter that we're going to see Tom Hiddleston in Doctor Strange 2, the Multiverse of Madness?
Look, I think after what we've seen, I think it's a good bet that Loki is going to play a role in all of this. And the reason that they kept this under wraps is because they wanted the show to air first. And Marvel is very good at keeping their secrets. which I admire them for because it makes it a lot more fun. And I think that we're gonna see some shenanigans. I think that they've now what they've done is I don't want to they've just Loki's been positioned in a very interesting way at the conclusion of the first season of a series. And I'm fascinated to see what they're going to do with him now. Because they didn't just restore him and turn him back into what he was. They've now made him somebody different. And it's not we saw his character growth in our universe that was choked out by Thanos. This is a new, different Loki that has even, I think, has even gone further as far as a character based as a result of what happens. And I'm really curious to see where Tom Hiddleston's going to take Loki now. I'm really excited to see where Loki's going to be at in the rest of the MCU because they've turned him into a character that I think is far more interesting than even he was through Infinity War. So I'm stoked.
See, I disagree a little bit. I mean, for the most part, I do, but I feel like the Loki we have now in a relatively short period of time has caught up with the Loki that we had in Infinity War, because when the last we saw Loki, we saw kind of the completion of his 180, right? We had to start off with a Loki who was seethingly jealous of his brother, even wanted, manipulated scenarios to get him cast out of Asgard, manipulated his own father to make it look like he was saving it, like all that stuff. And then by the time he got his neck snapped, he was willing to risk his own life and sacrifice himself in order to try to save his brother Thor. And that was the completion of a redemption arc, if you will, in many ways. And I feel like that there's a big speech. We won't go into the details of the speech, but there was a big speech that Loki gives last night that really, to me, made it feel like, okay, in just 6 episodes in 6 weeks, this Loki has now gotten all the way up to what it took like 7 years for that other Loki to do. And it's good to see that. And I think you're right. It even feels like maybe he took a step past that now, which was really cool to see. Rob, here's my worry, though. Here's my concern, and I want to know what you think of this. During the pregame show last night, one of the things that I said I'm a little bit worried about, and I say this as a big MCU fan, but I'm a little bit concerned about this. One of the reasons that the MCU has been so gargantuanly successful is not that they've pleased the hardcore comic geeks, like those of us on and watching this show.
Sure.
They've been massively successful because they've also appealed to the average film goer and entertainment consumer. They found a way to bring the best in the spirit of the comics in a way that's very easy and palatable for the general movie-going audience as well, and it's made everybody happy. That's a little bit hyperbole, but mostly everybody happy, and has been able to have everybody follow along. Rob, the comic books themselves, when they started to get really convoluted with multiple dimensions and multiple worlds and all this stuff, when the comic books themselves started getting lost in that, they would come up with these big events that basically wiped all of them out and brought them back into one single timeline, one single reality. So it was more palatable, I guess you could say. I am a little bit worried that with all this stuff of multiverses and timelines and variants and blah, 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 my fear is that the MCU might, remember, I'm only concerned about this, but might start to alienate significant chunks of the viewing audience that are not hardcore comic fans. I had a buddy of mine, I was telling you about this off camera. I had a buddy of mine yesterday who has read some comics, knows a bit, but talking to a buddy of mine last night after the show is like, I'm completely lost. I have no idea what's going on here. Like with timelines and blah, 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 blah. And I don't think they're alone. And even Christina, who wrote in, was saying, I have no idea what was happening, whatever. And I don't think they're alone. And I hope they don't go so bonkers that they're going to alienate the people, because Marvel is a big success because people who wouldn't traditionally watch comic book movies watch Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And I'm just a little bit worried that they may push it too far, that they're going to start to alienate that group of people. I'm not sure. Rob, what do you think? Am I way over paranoid about this, or how do you feel about it?
I don't think you're over paranoid at all. I mean, like I was telling you before, I've said this a lot on this show that when they first started the Marvel Cinematic Universe after Iron Man 1, I thought Iron Man 1 was a very grounded movie for the most part. It's really about one man coming to grips with himself and his feelings of guilt and having his come to Jesus moment, realizing his company's making things that kill innocent people. And even the end of the movie when he's battling Ironmonger, it's two men. It's not an apocalyptic universe ending event. It was a fairly small, self-contained story, which is why it was good. And I'm wondering, okay, how do they then bring in Thor and Asgard and Odin and Loki and the Rainbow Bridge and Heimdall and all that? They did it. And then you're going to deal with World War II and super soldiers and all that with Captain America. How are these all going to work together? It worked. It worked beautifully. And by the time you get to Avengers, it's like, wow, you believe that Hulk can be part of this. You believe that the Chitauri can come through. You can believe that Thanos is out there. And then they've been able to expand, adding the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Celestials and the Nova Corps and Captain Marvel. They've done a really good job. Well, John, with the TVA and with the introduction of all things that entails, they've really they've gone into very science fiction, very fantastical concepts. I know, like Thanos wasn't enough of one, or Ego the Living Planet wasn't enough of one, but they've really blown up they've pushed the limits. Now we all, those of us who know science fiction and all that, we've seen alternate timeline episodes of our favorite shows and things like that. We've seen Sliding Doors, that movie. We understand multiversal concepts, but man, Loki takes it to a whole new level. And it looks like what they're doing is, while once again, based in the comics, they're always looking to their source material, and I love them for that. But they're adding in a bunch of characters and a bunch of concepts that might be a little difficult to grasp for your casual moviegoer. Even people that have come to love the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we're going out. It's out there, dude. I mean, it's as far out as it goes now with this multiverse business. And I think a lot of people might get a little lost. It's a little murky. I thought I enjoyed Loki ultimately, but even I felt maybe they could have done a better job. There's a lot of questions and a lot of things I thought they could have focused on more in the show because it was only 6 episodes. So I agree with you. It's going to be hard to thread that needle because they're out there, bruh. They're out there on the edge. They're on the edge of craziness, and hopefully they'll keep their audience. I mean, if you're 8 years old and you love those Marvel movies, now you're dealing with these multiversal concepts and different tangents of universes and variants. Are you going to be able to keep it straight, or is it going to alienate that base? I don't know, man.
I think there's 38-year-olds out there that were in, because like, here's the thing, Marvel's always done a great job. Like you mentioned, they started expanding. We got into the magic element with Doctor Strange. We got into the intergalactic element with Guardians of the Galaxy. But even when they did all of that, they seemed to find a way to explore those ideas while keeping 2 feet grounded. You know what I mean? Yep. They kept it very character focused. They kept it very relatable for a lot of the audience. And as I'm watching Jonathan Majors last night and this whole dialogue going on, I'm like, whoo, they're going out there. They're going out there. And again, I am not sitting, I can just see it now. Some people saying John's is saying that the MCU now is doomed. No. I'm just saying, I'm just a little cautious, little worried, and want to see how they do this. I just hope they don't go too far because, man, the success they've had has been so great. But at any rate, by the way, guys, I just want to let you know that we are going to talk about full open Loki season finale spoilers today at 4 p.m. Los Angeles time. We are doing, of course, our final Loki open spoiler discussion. That'll be today at 4. That's 4 p.m. Los Angeles time, whatever time zone that is where you live. You guys can look that up. But 4 p.m. LA time, we hope that you guys will come and join us for that. All right, guys. With all that down and out of the way,